Hello, my fellow Chrysler simps, my Mopar madmen. It's Doc here, and you just landed at episode 8 of Cherokee Therapy. Maybe you're here for some hand holding because you've just bought a used XJ and discovered that everything needs to be replaced, and that once you finish those jobs, you have to go back and do half of them again because parts these days are total garbage. And suddenly, that old Jeep joke, just empty every pocket, doesn't seem that funny anymore. Or maybe you're here because you searched, quote, how to look 20 years younger, unquote, and YouTube's algorithm decided that what you really need is a crazy old man who has way too much to say about the life of an amateur four-wheel drive mechanic and whose old man smell can clear a room in less than 5 seconds. Who knows? But you're here, so get comfortable, relax, and listen up. There are plenty of people like you. You are not alone. Just go join a Facebook XJ group. In less than an instant, you'll be surrounded by other Chrysler victims and addicts whose love of XJs knows no bounds and whose knowledge shatters that graph of the Dunning-Kruger effect because there are so many things that can go wrong with an XJ that everyone is an expert and nobody is an expert simultaneously. It's why I made my last Cherokee Therapy video on Death Wobble in the fashion of the Twilight Zone. Truly, nothing makes sense when the sound of rushing water in your dashboard could be air in your coolant lines, coolant in your heater box, or water in your dashboard because your windshield seal is over 20 years old and has been leaking for 10 years. Or it could be all of those. Welcome to the world of Jeeps, my peeps. I thought it'd be useful to give you a heads up, a primer, so to speak, on what to expect when you join that Facebook XJ group and start asking questions or responding to other posts. First of all, this is in good fun. I fit into one or more of these categories, so I'm also poking fun at myself. Even so, I'm sure that somebody's panties will bunch up at this, and I'll get downvoted or angry comments. To that I say, whatever. Second, this does not apply to XJ forums that exist outside of Facebook. Those are different. They aren't as full of annoying people and often have multiple subforums that you can follow to avoid some of the categories that I'm going to list below. But don't worry. I'll be doing a video about those places too, because nobody is safe from Doc. So without further ado, number 1, rough country simps. What's a simp? I'm not even going to go there since I want this video to not violate YouTube standards. Just Google it. But here's some context. You go into your Facebook group and post a question. You want to lift your new XJ and want to know, well, new used, and want to know if rough country kits are any good. The price is right. There are plenty of how-to videos out there to help you get the job done. So everything looks great from where you're sitting. RC simps will jump out of the woodwork, telling you how rough country is the only way to fly. Sure, there are lots of reports of problems with rough country bushings, shocks, springs, the list goes on, believe me it does, but they have never had any problems. Their RC kits were perfect out of the box. So all those other reports, look, just Google rough country and you'll find the horror stories. They're wrong, lies, or both. These are the same kind of people who will tell you that eating crushed glass is fine. It's never given them any problems, so it must be safe. Plus, it's full of fiber. But it gets worse. Rough country simps will jump on any and every comment that tries to warn you about certain problems known to plague specific rough country kits. People with experience will tell you to save your money for a more expensive and better kit, and then get mobbed by rough country simps as if they just insulted their wife. Look, I don't know what's going on with these people. I do know that based on the pics of them I've seen jumping on me for criticizing rough country, that they tend to be of the deep woods hillbilly and redneck persuasion. I'll say this about rough country. They are the cheapest lift kits around, but you definitely get what you pay for, and I don't fall into the rough country simp category. Moving on. Number 2, the know-it-all. There's some overlap here with rough country simps, but I won't get into that. Oh my God. If there's anyone worse than the rough country simp, it's the know-it-all, and this is not to be confused with one of my later categories that I'll get into in a minute. These are the guys who actually know nothing, but by God, they've had Jeeps their entire lives, and torque spikes don't matter when you have the good and tight metric, the old calibrated elbow and forearm. These folks will be quick to tell you what's wrong with your XJ mods, constantly, because they've read all about it and watched hours of YouTube videos, decided to go with 30s and a 3-inch lift instead of lifting 4.5 inches, cutting your fenders and running 33s. What an idiot you are. These guys will tell you for hours why running 33s are superior. Oh, and you should also run 10 plies because even though they're god-awful heavy, you can deflate them and practically run them without any air at all. Look, the good thing is that these guys are far fewer in number than the rough country simps, and they're so obvious when you encounter them that they're easy to ignore. Just move on until you find number 6. I'll get there. Hold your horses. Number 3, the why would you mod your XJ guys? Okay, here's where you're likely to encounter guys like this. After lifting your XJ 3 inches, you decide to rebuild your front drive shaft. This is actually what happened to me. Splice your U-joints, you carefully index how the drive shaft halves go back together, and you marked how it came off so you know how to put it back on. But now you have driveline vibrations for some reason. But you didn't have it before. It happened after the rebuild and reinstallation. Well, these guys will pop into existence like soap bubbles when you lather up your crotch in the shower, and they'll let you know without question it's because you lifted your XJ. End of discussion. Even though you did this after you lifted your XJ and after it was fine, you just knew that you needed to rebuild it. No driveline vibrations after you lifted your XJ. Driveline vibrations after you rebuilt the front drive shaft. You see where I'm getting at? Their hearts are in the right place and they mean well, and sometimes they're right, but then there are all the times they aren't. The foundation of their thought process is that Chrysler engineers design the XJ a certain way, and anytime you change the geometry, that is the cause of all your problems that happen afterward. Got a cooling problem? Did you lift your XJ? That's why. Got a leaking brake line? Did you lift your XJ? Got an axle bearing that started to howl? Did you lift your XJ? You get the picture. The trick with these guys, though, is not to ignore them. It's to know when their penchant for staying stock may actually be the root cause of your particular issue, and then how to correct what ultimately could be a driveline geometry issue. Who said owning a Chrysler was easy? Silly rabbit. Chryslers are for Jeep addicts. Number 4, Jeep moms. Okay, this one's a little vague, I'll admit, and likely these aren't all moms. But if you're in an XJ Facebook group, you know what I mean. They tend to be women who just love XJs for some of the same reasons we men do, but who aren't there to learn how to rebuild an engine or swap out a transmission. They're there to talk about why they love XJs, and who doesn't. Maybe they bought theirs because it's a car they had in childhood and the memories are thick, or maybe they're just fans of more retro four-wheel drives and the look, and they enjoy feeling part of the group. A bunch of people who feel the same way they do about XJs, by the way. What color is yours? What year? What style? Got any pictures? And it's not just women, actually. There are some men that fit into this category too, but in my experience, it's mostly women. The great thing about them is that these people bring something to the XJ groups that a lot of guys don't. And it's kind of like putting a vase of flowers on a bare wooden table and how it can transform it from something that's mundane and maybe a little ugly to something that's welcoming and friendly. So they definitely add something. Number 5, the complete newbie. Okay, I used to fall into this category and I kind of still am here. So this is where I feel like I fit in. So I know it well. And I'm not talking about people who owned a Wrangler all their life and who just bought their first XJ. Those aren't newbies. They know how temperamental and expensive Jeeps can be. I'm talking about people like me for whom an XJ is their first American car ever. Up until now, they've driven sturdy, reliable Toyotas or Hondas. But they heard the stories about how incredibly reliable the inline 6 is, or how the Ace and Warner transmission lasts forever, so, they took the plunge, only to get scalded badly. For me, it was like jumping into a hot tub without checking the water temp, only to get my nether regions boiled off because it was 250 degrees and boiling hot. All right, maybe that's a dumb example, but that's what it felt like. U-joint? What the crap is a U-joint? Solid axles? Crossover steering? Rear-wheel drive? Seriously, all this stuff is brand new to some folks like this. And the first time they experience death wobble, some people are going to throw up their hands and send that XJ to the scrap heap. So if you see these people in the forums, do your best to help them. Shield them from the rough country simps and the know-it-all trolls who will ridicule their lack of knowledge and recommend that the newbie is obviously a moron and should therefore take their XJs to a professional mechanic. Seriously, I've seen this happen. It's happened to me. It's the internet. Are you shocked at their asshats on Facebook pages? And again, this is probably my category still, but I'm working my way into the next one and will hopefully reach it sometime before I die. Anyway, the next category is number 6, the XJ gurus. If you're new to XJs or need help with a repair issue, this is who you want to find in your Facebook group. This is the guy who lives atop Mount Chrysler in a small hut and who lives on a diet of Mopar parts and used motor oil, who has conquered all the XJ tests and now performs acts of levitation at will, hovering over his engine and moving parts without touching them. Seriously, maybe these guys are pro mechanics and they're just really experienced. Maybe they're not pros, but all they have is lots of experience in fixing XJs. Who knows? But what makes them so important is they aren't jerks. They see the newbie and explain things without the need to throw insults. They're like Matlock, Forrest Gump, Mr. Miyagi, all rolled up into one in the form of a mechanical genius. Got a problem with your fuel system? Before you start swapping out all your injectors, have you tested your rail to see if it holds pressure? Any problem you have, these guys know the proper diagnostic steps. And they probably even know what your problem is and how to fix it, but they want you to learn that you always diagnose first. You will know these guys when you see them. So get to know them better. Remember their names, and you can find them if you ever need sage advice. Now, last but not least, number 7, the pick addict. I seriously don't get these people. I mean, they're harmless, and I don't see anything wrong with them. And sometimes they can add some cool visual candy to the page. And it's an even mix of men and women. But I've never been able to be the kind of guy who feels the need to constantly take daily pics of my XJ or walk outside in my underwear in the dead of winter just to look at my Jeep. Meh. To each his own. You'll see these guys immediately with their posts that say something like, Side View Saturday, Ass End February, Show me your XJs, or whatever, with pics of their Jeeps to kick it off. I mean, I guess I get it. We all want people to compliment us on different aspects of our lives, but I just don't share the enthusiasm for needing validation when it comes to the kind of car I drive. Doesn't taking pics of the same vehicle over and over and over get boring after a while? Maybe I don't get it after all. Look, for me, Facebook likes don't translate into a higher salary or something I can put in my resume. And when I die, I doubt my last words are going to be, I never got to post that one last pic of my Jeep. So that's it. Did I forget any categories? Look, I'm sure I'll have a follow-on video for types of XJ people I missed. If you know of any additional ones, leave something in the comments. But for now, it's a good start. And in the interest of giving credit where credit is due, I decided to make this video after a couple of rough country simps decided to respond to one of my posts on a Facebook group I'm in. And so to those toothless rednecks, I'm not kidding, they had pics and everything, I say thank you. Thank you for giving me the inspiration to point the finger and laugh. And just remember, I'm laughing at you, not with you, but it is all in good fun. Doc, out. Oh, you made it to the end. That's awesome. Listen, I'm Doc. I'm the one who's, the voice behind these videos. And I really appreciate you taking the time to actually watch the whole thing. That's fantastic. If you've got time, if you want to, if you like the video, hit like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the bell button so you get notified of new videos when I put them up. I'm going to try and do one a week. And I'm going to do a bunch of Instagram stuff, so make sure you follow me there and on Twitter. Instagram's going to be the shorter stuff. I don't have any merchandise yet. I'm planning to as the channel grows. If I succeed, I'll get some merch. For now, if you really want to help me in another way, you like these videos enough, I'm going to put links to my books in the description of the video. I'm a science fiction author in my spare time as well, so I'm juggling a lot of balls. But anyway, I really appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you at the next one. Hey, do me a favor and turn this junk off. I don't know how to deal with tech.